Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to posit the question, do our pets go to heaven if we go to heaven? Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et saecula saeculorum. Amen. So, look, I understand why people ask this question because there are a lot of people who have an affinity, if not a love for their pet. And I would say that certainly we've anthropomorphized our pets the last 40 years. My father, may he rest in peace, he was born in 1935. He used to tell me, Gregory, yeah, we would have a pet, and then, when it got sick, we would just break its neck and get a new one. And then, when that one died, we would just get a new one. And there was no attachment to pets. But as we've had less kids, and this is just my theory, as we've had less kids, we have to replace that maternal, paternal instinct, and we've kind of transposed it into animals. And so we kind of see animals as their pets as part of the family, like a fur baby. And you see people that will spend thousands of dollars on surgeries for their animals, even if it might bankrupt them, to give their pet another year or two of life. And you would not have seen this, even if we had the technology 100, 200, 300 years ago. It's not to say people didn't love their sheep dog as they were shepherding their herd in whatever millennium in the past, but we just had different perspective. So a lot of people ask this question on pets. And a lot of people get disappointed when the answer is, no, your dog's not going to heaven. Now, this doesn't mean that your dog's going to hell, unless your dog is Cujo from Stephen King. But even then, if you had a horrifically demonic dog, that dog would not be going to hell. Why? Let's understand the church's teaching on this before you get mad. Because I know people who have left the church because they found out the church says that Fido isn't going to heaven. And it just blows my mind. So, what separates us from animals? Well, we have an intellect, we have a will. As much as we think our dog has these things, and the dogs are smart, but they don't have an intellect and a will. Why do we have that? Because we're created in the image and likeness of God. And part of that image and likeness of God phrase is that we have an eternal, immortal soul. So when we create life, a man and a woman, we don't create the soul. The soul is put into that child at the moment of its conception. We don't create that soul. And that soul is created by God. And that soul will live forever, will exist forever. And we've talked about it here before, how we're very myopic and short-sighted about the pleasures of this world and things that we give up for the pleasures of this world, when we forget that the large majority of our existence will be in the afterlife. So, dogs don't have an immortal soul. They have a material soul. So for plants. So if you want a little more elaboration on this, you can go read Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas talks about this. So plants, animals, they have souls. But their souls is the life-giving part of them that gives them life. So when they die, their soul dies. When we die, since we have an immortal soul, we're either going to go to heaven or hell. We might spend some time at the washing machine of purgatory, but heaven or hell is our ultimate destination forever. And since we have an immortal soul, we will be going to one of those two places. Since our dog does not have an immortal soul, sadly, they will not be going to heaven. Now, is this something to be sad about? Well, I think we have to remember, what is heaven? It's the beatific vision. It's being in the presence of God. God. Eyes have not seen, ears have not heard what God has ready for those who love Him. We have no concept of what heaven's going to be like. Yes, there's been private revelations of people who've gone to heaven, but remember, those are private and those don't trump public revelation. But we have no idea, because we don't have the senses, we don't have the faculties to truly grasp the eternal bliss that we will have in heaven with the beatific vision, with the angels, with the community of saints, the church triumphant, and whatnot. So it's understandable with our very limited intellect to think that, well, I'll be sad in heaven if Fido's not there. And you can extrapolate this out. I'll be sad if my spouse, who ends up going to hell, is not there. Totally understandable. Totally understandable. But I think it misunderstands the eternal bliss that we will have in heaven. No pain, no hunger, none of these things. Well, the beginning, after a particular judgment, before the second coming of Christ, we won't have bodies. We'll just be pure spirits. But even after the second coming of Christ and our bodies are reunited with our souls and we go back to where we were originally judged, same thing. No hunger, no pain, no thirst, none of these things. We'll just be in the beatific vision. Now, can God, in his infinite power and love of us, God is love, as is mentioned in 1 John, create a pet for you that is a simulacrum of your pet or the variety of pets you might have had throughout your life if you go to heaven? Remember, we're not all guaranteed to go to heaven. Yeah, of course. Of course, he's God. He can do whatever he wants. He can make whatever. Will that be your Fido? Well, that's a question of identity, right? Was your Fido was a particular organic creature, and that Fido died. So it wouldn't be your Fido, it would be like a simulacrum, for lack of a better word, of your dog. Is that possible? Yes. The church does not have a definitive teaching on whether or not dogs would be in heaven or pets would be in heaven in that regard. But we do know that since we have immortal souls, we will either go to heaven or hell. But since plants and animals don't have immortal souls, they will not be in heaven or hell. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.